Wow, what an unbelievable Grand Prix for a second week running. Drama has happened again in F1. They say F1 is boring. I don't think so. Guys, this is Mr. Joshy J, and what an unbelievable Grand Prix that was. We had 3 restarts, 2 red flags. It just had absolutely everything, this Grand Prix. So in the start of the race, it was Lewis Hamilton on pole, Bottas second, Verstappen third. Max Verstappen, he got off the line well, but then his engine just lost power, and then he was caught up in the first lap carnage when the Alfa Romeo went into Max Verstappen and poor Pierre Gasly, last week's race winner, out of the race on the first lap. Bottas took the lead of the Grand Prix, got a good start. Looks like Hamilton's Mercedes just bogged down. So, safety car come out, and then about lap 8 at the restart at the back of the grid, oh my god, absolute carnage. Too eager at the back. I mean, I got the list of retirements here, but Latifi, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, and Sainz all caught up in that lap 8's carnage. Wow. Just, as I said, too eager. Grosjean furious on the team radio because he avoided the carnage, but it was a mess. What a mess that was. And then the safety car came back out. Red flag, race stopped. Everyone had to go in the pit lane. Esteban Ocon then retired because he had problems with his brakes. So at the restart, Bottas was in the lead, Hamilton second. But this time, Lewis Hamilton with a good start this time round, jumped Bottas, and really after that was in control in the Grand Prix. Again though, Mercedes had tyre issues. They're told to stay off the curbs, which, if you can remember, back in the first race of the season, they're told to stay off the curbs. Lance Stroll, he had a massive off. His car, just something broke, and he just went into the wall. Thankfully, he's okay, but they were lifting his car, but then the fire extinguisher had to be used because it looks like the car was on fire because it was so hot. So, again, red flag. Third restart, it was Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, and Ricciardo, top 3, and then Albon, 4th. Race restarted, Hamilton off the line well again. Ricciardo jumped Bottas, but then about a lap later, Bottas was able to get ahead of Ricciardo again. So, good 1 and 2 from Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton claims his 90th victory of the season. Wow, what an unbelievable Grand Prix. Race rating, 11 out of 10. Yep, absolutely. It just had so much drama. I mean, people criticised F1 recently, saying it's boring, but the last couple races have been anything but boring. This is what we love about F1, to see action like this. Alright, a few crashes happened, but thankfully no one injured, but this is what racing should be about, so much drama happening. It really was such an action-packed Grand Prix, and I absolutely loved it. The race lasted for nearly a total of 3 hours, I believe. It's just, wow, a crazy Grand Prix. But Simon Lazenby was enjoying it, and so was David Croft as well on Sky Sports F1. But my driver of the day, I'm going to give it to Daniel Ricciardo. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Alex Albon, at long last, a podium for Red Bull. He deserved that. He's had a lot of bad luck recently, Alex Albon, but at long last secures his first podium for the Red Bull senior team. Fantastic. So in the first lap carnage, you lost a Red Bull A team car and a Red Bull B team car. So for last week's top two, Gasly and Sainz, it was a Grand Prix to forget because they both went out very early. So the next Grand Prix is in Russia in 2 weeks' time. So that one is always quite an interesting Grand Prix. But this one, the first ever F1 race at Tuscany. Wow, just unbelievable. Ferrari double points finish on their 1000th Grand Prix. So that's something to smile about for the Scuderia team. Something to smile about, at least for them. So George Russell tantalisingly close to his first points in F1, but Sebastian Vettel just hold on to the point scoring position, which I'm happy for Vettel because he's not been in the points recently, so it was good to see Vettel in the points, and lovely to see them 2,000 fans cheering Lewis Hamilton after the race, winning the Grand Prix. That was so nice to see. But in general, it was just lovely to see some fans back in the Grand Prix. Really was. But Lando Norris, again, decent race in McLaren. Stroll was going really well until something broke on his car. But Perez, good 5th place finish for him in an action-packed Grand Prix. Just, I mean, this is what I love about F1, just as I said, full of drama. This is why, this is the type of sport we love, because you never know what's going to happen. And the last 2 races have just proved it. Unbelievable. But anyway, let's get on to the driver ratings. I've written down all the teams on a bit of paper because there's so much has happened in this Grand Prix. I'm more than likely to forget. So, right, let's start off with Lewis Hamilton. I'll give a 10 out of 10. Chaotic Grand Prix, but just looks very comfortable out on track. Pole, a win, and fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well. Brilliant. All 26 points to Lewis Hamilton. Fauci Bottas, 7 out of 10. Solid P2 for him. Really good. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, even though he didn't finish the race, I'll give a 6 out of 10 because he was really good in qualifying. Just unlucky. Again, power unit issues and caught up in that carnage. Alex Albon, 9 out of 10. For once this season, decent qualifying and came alive in the second half of the Grand Prix to earn his first podium in F1. Fantastic. Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel, 4 out of 10. Really solid P10 for him to score 1 point at least after not being in the points in the last couple of races. Disappointing qualifying, but, you know, that's why I'm giving him a respectable 4 out of 10. Well done to Seb. Charles Leclerc, 7 out of 10. My start at qualifying. He started P5 in the race and finished P8 in the Grand Prix. When Ferrari's tyres go, it just shows they have absolutely no race pace whatsoever. So that's why it's been a really decent weekend for Charles Leclerc. Well done to him. Fantastic performance. Renault, Daniel Ricciardo, 8 out of 10. So close to a podium, but Alex Albon just took it away from him. Really good weekend for Daniel Ricciardo. Esteban Ocon, 5 out of 10. Brake problems forced him to retire from the race. Didn't have the best of qualifying, but, you know, can't really give him a high rating because he didn't finish the race. McLaren, Carlos Sainz, 6 out of 10. Bit disappointing in qualifying, but, you know, was not his fault. He was caught up in that absolute carnage at the restart in the Grand Prix. So, yeah, respectful 6 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris, 7 out of 10. Just did his job. It looks very professional. Good race. AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly. Now, check this out for statistics. I gave him a 10 last weekend, but this weekend, 1 out of 10. You know, not a great qualifying, and then just taking out the Grand Prix in the first lap of the race. What a difference a week makes. Last week's Grand Prix winner, Pierre Gasly. Danny Kvyat, 8 out of 10. Really good weekend for Danny Kvyat. I thought he did magnificently. Haas, Roman Grosjean, 7 out of 10. I thought he was quite good in this Grand Prix. And again, all weekend outperforms Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen, 1 out of 10. Just nowhere in qualifying, and obviously caught up in that lap 8 carnage as well. So, yep. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Raikkonen. Now, I would probably give him an 8 out of 10, but because he made a mistake and got a time penalty, I'll give him a 6 out of 10, because you have to mark him down a bit for going into the pit lane late and getting a time penalty. But, you know, still a decent race for Kimi Raikkonen, so, yep, that's rating I'm giving him. 6 out of 10. Antonio Giovinazzi, 1 out of 10. Just, again, not a great weekend for him. And another driver who fell victim in that carnage. Williams, George Russell, 7 out of 10. Tantalisingly close to his first points in F1, but a third restart just had a poor restart and lost the position to Sebastian Vettel. Really disappointing for George Russell. How fitting would that have been for Williams? Weekends, they got a new team director and the new owners there as well for them to score a point, but wasn't quite meant to be for Williams. Nicolas Latifi, 5 out of 10. Decent qualifying, and just caught up again. Another driver. Absolute carnage at the restart. It really was on lap 8. Mental. Racing points. Lance Stroll, 7 out of 10. Was going really well. Looks on course for another podium until something snapped on his car. Just real unlucky for Lance Stroll. And Sergio Perez is 7 out of 10. P5 in the Grand Prix. Absolutely fantastic by Sergio Perez. He's lost his drive. Still doesn't know whether he's going to be in F1. But what a professional performance this weekend by Sergio Perez. Really was. So, right, team ratings. Mercedes, 10 out of 10. Really good 1-2 for them. Red Bull, 8 out of 10. Albon getting a podium. Ferrari, I think I'll give them a respectable 5 out of 10. It's good they scored a double points finish, their 1000th Grand Prix, but boy oh boy, that car is just awful. Renault, 8 out of 10. Daniel Ricciardo, so close to a podium. McLaren, 7 out of 10. Norris, decent points to him. AlphaTauri, 6 out of 10. Kvyat's had a good race, but disappointing to lose Gasly so early on. Haas, 5 out of 10. Decent by Grosjean. Alfa Romeo, 5 out of 10. Williams, I'll give a 7 out of 10. You know, George Russell, as I said, so close. Rating points, 7 out of 10. They're looking decent until what happened to Lance Stroll, but still, Perez, decent points for the pink Mercedes. So, the DNS were Stroll, Ocon, Latifi, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Sainz, Verstappen, and Gasly. What an unbelievable, epic Grand Prix that was. My driver of the day, Daniel Ricciardo. Team of the day, probably again to Renault, because they're so close to the podium. But anyway, you know, comment your thoughts down below. What drivers you think were good, and what would you give this race rating? I gave this an 11 out of 10. Let me know yours. And we go again for the Russian Grand Prix at Sochi in 2 weeks' time. F1. You have got to love F1. Such an amazing motor sport. Bye-bye.